Acrylics are water soluble when wet, which means you can clean them up with water, you can thin them easily, and they're permanent when dry. However, too much use of water can affect adhesion. So I always suggest no more than 20% water to your color, and that's fine. You won't affect adhesion that way. And what I want to make clear about that is water is your solvent. So if we think about it, we take water, and when our brush has paint on it, we swish it around in that water, and what we're doing is we're breaking up that acrylic polymer pigment combination that makes paint, and we're thinning that out. And if we do that on a surface like a canvas that's flexible, you can get cracking over time. So here's what I would suggest. What I have laid out here is some ultramarine blue, red shade, two piles of that. So, you're painting and you go through the process of painting and you dip your brush in water and then usually pull some paint and you thin like that. And especially when you're starting out a painting, people often get very loose, right? They're sketching things in. And the problem with that is I really don't want to treat my acrylic like watercolor because again, I'm thinning it so much that I can spread out the pigment particles and the acrylic polymer, your binder that holds it together, and that can weaken it. And we see an example here where it's dry. So here is water and quite a bit of it, because a lot of times, you dip back in the water again, and again, you thin a little bit more and you don't realize how much water is being sucked up into the head of your brush. So again, making it more wet than you might have expected. And when you do look at this here, what we see is a paint film that looks, well, it doesn't have a great sheen to it. If I move it around in the light, not a really nice sheen to it. It doesn't look all that saturated. It doesn't look like a strong color. And over here on this side, and let's shift this in the light so we can see, we get more of a nice sheen to that. We get a rich, deep color. And that's because what I did is I added a medium to that. So in this case, I added some Liquitex gloss medium. So this is basically the binder that's in your paint. This is an acrylic polymer without color. So when we put this out, it's colorless. And let's just clean off my brush here. Like we said, water is your solvent. A lot of times people think of solvents like turpentine and mineral spirits. They think of things that are very harsh, but water is your solvent when it comes to acrylics. And let's take a look at thinning now. Just like with water, I'll pull the acrylic to the side and a little bit of color. And you can even see there, it's not moving around as much. And when we paint on this same surface, next to our very watery mark here, you can see just how rich and saturated that is. And when it dries, of course it's very, very shiny right now because it's wet, but because that's gloss medium, it will dry very shiny. You could use a matte medium as well. You could use a satin medium equally. And those just happen to do with your aesthetics and the sheen you want. But again, keep in mind here, the lesson is, it's not that you can't use water. You of course can use water to thin and clean up, definitely, but just don't use more than 20% water to your acrylic color. That way you won't have to worry about adhesion issues down the road.